Palestine. A land of ancient history, a land sacred to three of the world's major religions. For Jews, it is the land of their forefathers, the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is the land where their prophets walked and where their kings ruled. Jerusalem, with the ancient Temple Mount, holds profound significance in Jewish tradition. For Christians, Palestine is the land where Jesus Christ was born, lived, and died. It is the land of Bethlehem, Nazareth, and Jerusalem, sites central to Christian faith. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, believed to be built upon the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, stands as a testament to this history. And for Muslims, Palestine holds immense religious importance as well. Jerusalem is revered as the site of Prophet Muhammad's miraculous night journey and ascension to heaven. Al-Aqsa Mosque, located within the noble sanctuary, is considered the third holiest site in Islam after Mecca and Medina. For centuries, these three faiths coexisted in Palestine, their histories and traditions intertwined. However, the late 19th century brought about a new movement that would forever alter the landscape of this land: Zionism. Zionism emerged in the late 19th century in response to rising anti-Semitism in Europe. Theodor Herzl, a Jewish journalist from Austria, is considered the father of modern political Zionism. He witnessed firsthand the persecution of Jews and believed that the only solution was the creation of a Jewish state. Herzl's vision resonated with many Jews who longed for a safe haven from persecution. The Zionist movement gained momentum, promoting the idea of Jewish self-determination and advocating for a Jewish homeland. While Zionism was initially a secular movement, its focus on establishing a Jewish state in Palestine inevitably intersected with religious claims to the land. European powers, seeking solutions to the Jewish question and seeing strategic value in the region, lent support to the Zionist cause. The British in particular issued the Balfour Declaration in 1917, expressing support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. However, the Balfour Declaration failed to acknowledge the presence and rights of the Palestinian Arabs, who constituted the overwhelming majority of the population in Palestine. This critical oversight would prove to have devastating consequences in the decades to come. Following World War I, the League of Nations granted Great Britain a mandate over Palestine in 1920. The mandate included the contradictory objectives of establishing a Jewish national home while safeguarding the rights of the existing non-Jewish population. This inherent contradiction, coupled with the increasing Jewish immigration fueled by Zionism, laid the groundwork for escalating tensions and conflict. Jewish immigration to Palestine surged, particularly during the 1930s, driven by the rise of Nazism in Europe. The influx of Jewish immigrants exacerbated tensions with the Arab population, who felt their homeland slipping away. Land purchases by Jewish agencies, often from absentee landlords, further displaced Palestinian farmers and fueled resentment. The 1936-39 Arab revolt against British rule and Jewish immigration demonstrated the growing resistance to Zionist ambitions. While brutally suppressed by the British, the revolt highlighted the deep-seated grievances of the Palestinian people. The stage was set for a showdown as World War II came to an end, leaving a power vacuum in the Middle East and a conflict in Palestine on the brink of explosion. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. The partition plan, while intended to resolve the conflict, was rejected by the Palestinian Arabs, who saw it as a further dispossession of their homeland. The plan allocated 56% of the land to the Jewish state, despite Jews constituting only about 30% of the population. On May 15, 1948, Israel declared independence. The very next day, armies from neighboring Arab states intervened, marking the beginning of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. What followed was a catastrophe for the Palestinians, a tragedy etched in their collective memory as the Nakba, meaning catastrophe in Arabic. Over 700,000 Palestinians were expelled or fled their homes during the war, driven out by fear, violence, and the destruction of their villages. More than 500 Palestinian villages were systematically depopulated and destroyed, erasing their presence from the landscape. The Nakba was not merely a byproduct of war, it was a deliberate campaign of ethnic cleansing, aimed at creating a Jewish majority in the newly established state of Israel. Section 5. Displacement and dispossession, life after the Nakba. The Nakba created a Palestinian refugee crisis that continues to this day. Millions of Palestinians live in exile, scattered across the Middle East and beyond, denied the right to return to their homes and lands. Refugee camps established in the aftermath of the Nakba became symbols of displacement and dispossession, a stark reminder of the injustices inflicted upon the Palestinian people. The newly established State of Israel, built upon the ruins of Palestinian society, enacted laws that prevented Palestinian refugees from returning to their homes and confiscated their properties. The absentee property law, for example, allowed the Israeli government to seize the land and assets of Palestinians who had fled or been expelled during the war. The Nakba left an indelible scar on the Palestinian psyche, a collective trauma passed down through generations. The loss of their homeland, the fragmentation of their society, and the denial of their fundamental rights became defining features of the Palestinian experience. Section 6. Wars and Shifting Sands, 1948 to 1967. The 1948 war did not bring an end to the conflict. It merely marked the beginning of a new chapter. The following decades witnessed a series of wars and political upheavals that further entrenched Israel's control over historic Palestine and deepened the plight of the Palestinians. The 1956 Suez Crisis, in which Israel, Britain and France invaded Egypt, showcased Israel's growing military prowess and its alliance with Western powers. The 1967 Six-Day War, a decisive victory for Israel, resulted in its occupation of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. The occupation of these territories, home to millions of Palestinians, marked a turning point in the conflict. Israel's control over the West Bank, in particular, with its historical and religious significance, created a new set of challenges and further inflamed tensions. Section 7. Al-Aqsa and the Politics of Holy Sites. The status of Jerusalem, a city holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, lies at the heart of the conflict. For Muslims, Al-Aqsa Mosque holds profound religious significance, and its fate is intertwined with the broader struggle for Palestinian self-determination. Following the 1967 war, Israel occupied East Jerusalem, including the Old City, which houses Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. While Israel claims to allow freedom of worship at these holy sites, its control over access and its policies have repeatedly inflamed tensions. The escalating provocations by extremist Jewish groups who seek to assert Jewish control over the Temple Mount or Haram al-Sharif have further heightened tensions. These provocations, often carried out under the protection of Israeli authorities, are seen by Palestinians as a direct assault on their religious freedom and an attempt to erase their presence from the holy city. Section 8. Life under occupation, a modern reality. For decades, Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have endured the harsh realities of Israeli military occupation. Their lives are restricted by checkpoints, settlements, and a system of permits that controls their movement and limits their opportunities. The expansion of Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank, deemed illegal under international law, continues to erode the possibility of a viable Palestinian state. These settlements, often built on confiscated Palestinian land, are a constant source of tension and violence. In Gaza, subject to a crippling Israeli blockade since 2007, the humanitarian situation is dire. The blockade, which restricts the flow of goods, services, and people, has devastated the economy and created a humanitarian crisis. The repeated rounds of military assaults have resulted in widespread destruction and a staggering loss of life, leaving the population traumatized and impoverished. Section 9. A Legacy of Loss, a Hope for Justice. The Palestinian-Israeli conflict is a story of dispossession, displacement, and ongoing struggle. It is a conflict rooted in historical grievances, competing claims to land, and the denial of fundamental rights. Despite the decades of suffering and injustice, the Palestinian people have not relinquished their aspirations for freedom and self-determination. Their struggle, fueled by a deep-rooted connection to their land and a yearning for justice, continues to inspire people around the world. The path to a just and lasting peace requires acknowledging the historical injustices inflicted upon the Palestinian people, ending the occupation, and upholding the right of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes. It demands a commitment to international law, respect for human rights, and a recognition of the shared humanity of both Palestinians and Israelis. Until then, the legacy of loss and the hope for justice will continue to shape the narrative of this enduring conflict.